And this is an iconic scene, if you didn't know, so now you know. And he's like, I think we're meant for each other. And she's like, no, I don't want it, I don't want it. So this is just all so messy.
Sorry to disappoint all the people who are waiting for this to be a Storm of Swords video, but we are going to be rereading City of Bones. And also, please do not talk about my raccoon eyes. Very few times I put on eye makeup, I have no idea how to remove it properly, so you're kind of just stuck with this. But yeah, I really want to jot all my thoughts down in video form for my reread of the Mortal Instruments series, because I'm still obsessed and I'm okay with it. I think it's a healthy obsession, and I think there are worse habits to have, clearly. So yeah, I am about, also it was wash day for my hair, so that's why it's in these dinky little braids. I am 17% in on chapter 7, the 5-dimensional door. And y'all, this is so 2007 and I love it. So what has happened so far? This starts out with Clary and Simon. Clary Frey is this teenage redheaded girl who's very short. That is mentioned abundantly in this novel and in the other novels as well. She has freckles, she's pasty white, and has curly red hair. And she is in this all ages nightclub, which I was not aware that that was a thing, that they have things like that, but go off New York, and they're in New York. And they're in this nightclub called the Pandemonium Club. Things start to go weird when Clary finds these 3 otherworldly looking people. I mean, I guess they're not otherworldly, they're just regular teenagers, but they look like they're they could beat somebody up. And they got these black tattoos on them, and she finds them killing this blue-haired guy. And she's like, quelle surprise! She tells her best friend Simon to go get the police. He goes to get the security, and he shows back up, and they can't see it at all. They can't even see them. He's like, Claire, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. And it turns out that the blue-haired guy was a demon, and the people that she saw killing this guy were Jace, Alec, and Isabel. And they are shadow hunters. And shadow hunters protect humans from the demons and the spooky ooky dookies of the world. And then, less than 24 hours later, she is back with Jace. And okay, so here's some stuff that happened in between. We meet Clary's mother, Jocelyn Frey, who Clary describes as a much prettier version of herself because, I don't know. Oh, it's because she's taller. I think that was the distinction. She's taller. So tall equals hot. And you meet Jocelyn's friend, Luke, who Clary used to refer to as Uncle Luke, but he was like, stop calling me that, I'm not your uncle. And it very much so reminiscent of the Spy Kids, that first movie where he's like, I'm not your uncle. And then, Clary and her mother get into a little tiff because Clary's mother is like, hey, pack up all your stuff, we're going to Luke's farm for a long time. And Clary's like, but Mom, I paid for these art classes and I'm doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. I have a life. Which, if I said that to my mama when I was her age, ooh, I would not hear the end of it. I'd still be scared right now. They get in a little argument. She leaves the house. She's like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go to Java Jones with Simon to hear one of Simon's bandmates do slam poetry. My turgid loins. So he does slam poetry. They go and go see him. And then while they're there, she sees the golden-haired Jace again. She's like, ooh, he's back. But only I can see him. And that leads to a long conversation where he's like, we're shadow hunters, you're mundane, but she's not a mundane. And then she realizes that her mother's in danger because her mother's called her and says, don't come back to the apartment. No matter what you do, don't come back. And she's like, but but what's wrong? Like, so that she rushes back to the apartment only to find that it's been ransacked and there is a Ravener demon still there and it's trying to kill Clary. Clary kills the demon with a sensor, which that's not how you kill demons. She just kind of did what she could, and ends up getting hurt. So Jace puts a rune on her, which that's how they get their powers. This is very much so. Sorry, Cassandra Clare. We all know it. Cassandra Clare kind of ripped this off of Harry Potter. Like they have steles, which are these like crystal like wands. And, oh, what was I saying? Oh my gosh. So he runes her, so that means that she is not a mundane, because you cannot put runes on mundanes. It turns them into Forsaken. And you don't want to be a Forsaken. No sirree, Bob. And so she gets taken to the Institute, which is this big place where Shadowhunters convene, and you can get asylum there. And it's a big place that looks like a church, but it's full of, or it's not full, it has only a few people in there. And so you see Jace, Alec, Isabel, and Alec and Isabel are brother and sister. And there's also Hodge. And Hodge is this, is like their mentor. He is just a big kindly man who has a scar on his face and has some, a raven. And Clary wakes up 3 days later in the Institute and has to put on Isabel's clothing. She learns that Jace and Isabel aren't brother and sister, and like she thought they were. Then she learns that she has to be a Shadowhunter, because how else is she alive? Which she does give Jace a little slap on the face because, oh, that rhymed, because he took a chance. He was like, I was 90% sure. And she gives him a slap because she's like, that's for the other 10%, because Clary's feisty. She's feisty. And now we have just gone back to her house to see what was happening, to her apartment. And then, oh, we had to fight a Forsaken because there was just a random one there. And now we've gone to see Madame Dorothea. That's where we are right now. Have I summed that up? Probably not succinctly, but we did what we could. And yeah, so Madame Dorothea is a witch, fortune teller person. She's not really a witch. She's descendant. Well, her adopted mother is a witch, so she kind of like learned the tricks of the trade. And what's funny about Madame Dorothea is that she's played by two completely different archetypes in the adaptations. Because in the movie, she's played by this older black lady, and in the show, she's played by this young woman who is not black. I don't know what she is. I don't care what she is. But she's not old. So she's barely Madame I would not classify her as a madam. She's a Miss Dorothea. And yeah, we don't speak about the show because it bothers me. But yeah, that's how far we've gotten into the book. Let's see. We're like a little over like 100 pages in. So I just want to have this to look back on it for myself. I don't care if the only views are myself. I'm cool with that. Things I need to talk about because I keep forgetting to update. So, first of all, the usage of vocabulary, or more specifically, SAT vocabulary words, is astounding. I don't know if this is going to be the case with the next books, but Cassie Clare really was pulling out the dictionary. I think there was like 2 instances within the first 100 pages where I was like, did you really need to use that word? Supercilious? Assiduously? It's a little much, but so I wonder if it's going to keep going that way, or if that's just like her first book debut, I need to use big words kind of a thing. Because I really don't think that she does that later on in the series, but who's to say, because I can't remember. But the other thing I want to talk about was that apparently they were not called shadow hunters the entire time. Because Jace goes, well, Clary's explaining it to Simon because they found him staked out at Luke's house. Because they were trying to figure out what's happening in the slightest. And Clary goes, they're shadow hunters. And then Jace goes, no, we're demon hunters. We're called demon hunters. I thought they were always called shadow hunters, so this feels very Mandela, but I've also had this book for a long time, so I know it couldn't have been changed. So I'm a little bit like, that doesn't seem real. But the other thing I wanted to say was that I love the fact that these people, these shadow hunters, sorry, these demon hunters don't know what stuff in the real world is because they don't spend too much time in it. They're kind of blind to all of the recent happenings, I guess. So one instance is that Jace doesn't know what eBay is, and Clary's like, it's this mythical place full of power, or something to that effect. I don't know the exact verbiage. I can look it up, but I won't. And he's like, well, sounds cool. And then she talks with Simon about stuff, and they're talking about who Jace is, and he's like, oh, so it's like Dungeons and Dragons. And Jace is like, what's a dungeon and dragon? We have dragons, but they're nearly extinct. And then that led me to go, wait, there's dragons. I don't remember a single reference to a dragon in this series, nor in the series of the Dark Artifices, or the previous series, the prequels. I don't understand where that's coming from because I don't remember that at all. And I feel like I don't care that she didn't expand upon it because I don't like dragons, but that's there. There are dragons apparently, but they're endangered. So, this is so 2007 in such a good way. So now we are back at the Institute with Simon in tow, because we're just breaking all the rules now, bringing all the mundanes into the Institute. And we are about to go into like some of my favorite parts of the book, which is like when they're just chilling and like being like, it's just very homey. I don't know, because we come into the Institute and we're greeted by Church, who, Church, if you know, Church is like the cat for this book series. But Church brings them to Isabel, and you find Isabel with her hair up and like puttering about the kitchen and cooking. And if you know, Isabel cannot cook. So yeah, we're just going into a bunch of the best little scenes, like the quaint scenes. So also we had the famous line said, such as someone's ordering coffee and they go, just black like my soul. I have that on one of my, I think it's on my iPad case. I bought a sticker that says that because, you know, I'm a fangirl. Also, that's how I take my coffee. Black, but not like my soul. I have a very light, bright soul. I guess, I don't know. Alright, we reached part 2 and we've gotten to like the nitty gritty of what is the big hubbub about Valentine. Because people keep saying Valentine's looking for her, Valentine this, Valentine that. And you're like, who's Valentine? Who's this guy with the cute name? Valentine is the leader of the Circle, who were the shadow hunters who were dedicated to the purification of the shadow world. So basically, in their world, the shadow hunters are a big group and they had these accords that they had to sign every 15 years to, you know, be peaceable with the downworlders. So the vampires, the werewolves, the fairies, all those people. But he believed that the downworlders were a blight to the world and they just needed to purify. So none of that. No vampires, no werewolves. And so he said, let's do that. So when they were going to sign these accords, he was like, let's attack them and kill them all. But I say all that to say, Hodge is like, oh, they're talking to Hodge and he's telling all this stuff and he recites the initiation speech you have to say to be in this group, in the school club. And they're like, why do you know this? And why are you really good at saying those words? And he's like, because I helped write them. I was in this group. I was in the Circle. And that's why he's doomed to stay in that institute forever. But, and he's like, and your mother, Clary, was in it as well. And she's like, what? She would never be in a hate group. And he's like, well, she wouldn't have much of a choice. She was Valentine's wife. And that's where we start. We start part 2 knowing that Valentine was married to her mama. So now we have part 2. Easy is the descent. I do have to say one thing about Miss Clarissa Frey. She seems so certain that she knows her mama when clearly she doesn't. When she has always been like, I don't really know much about her life before me. She even says, it seems like she didn't exist until she had me. So why do you think, honey boo boo, that you know everything about your mom's past? She would never have an ex-husband. She was only ever married to your father, she thinks her father is this guy who they have a painting of, and that he was just normal and died before she was born. That's the story she's been told. So the fact that she thinks she knows all this stuff, interesting. She seems very sure. Okay, now we have a mission. We're trying to find the Mortal Cup before Valentine, because he's looking for the Mortal Cup to have an army of shadow hunters to defeat the downworlders. But in making shadow hunters, you have to have them drink from the Mortal Cup, and you have to give that to, obviously, humans. But not every human can withstand that transformation because they don't all got it in them. So about 20% make it through that testing, trial period. And so that's a lot of death. But Valentine's like, worth it. We've been protecting them for eons, so it's fine. And so, we're trying to find the Mortal Cup so that he can't do that. And more specifically, we're trying to find Clary's mom, because we now know that Clary's mom took the Mortal Cup and hid it when she was running away from Valentine. Because that homie, as Hodge said, would sacrifice his own son. And Isabel's like, I didn't know he had a kid. And he was like, I was speaking figuratively. She's like,
I love it. I really do. Ooh, at Madame Dorothea's, she's like, I see violence in your future towards Jace. A great deal of bloodshed by you and others. You'll fall in love with the wrong person. Also, you have an enemy. Only one? That's good news. But basically, the reason why I'm saying all this is because if you've read this book series, you know there's a certain plot point that's like, what? Ew. And so Cassie Clare is really trying to drive this point home, I believe, right now. Like, you'll fall in love with the wrong person. Ooh. See, because my memories are all tangled up with the movie version of this, because that's what I watched first, I forgot that Clary goes through the portal in Madame Dorothea's apartment, like 100 pages in. So she is now tumbling to who knows where. We shall see. So we just went. So we just went to the Bone City, and I will say again, the movie has a lovely adaptation of that scene. It was very good, I must say so. But also, I really just like Jamie Campbell Bower. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And basically, what happened was they were trying to take the block away from Clary's mind because she has no memories of all of the magic she's seen in the shadow world, because somebody's put it there to have her be normal. And they do all this just to say, sorry, we can't take it off. It's going to have to be the person that put it on there. And while she's in this little state, she sees the two words, Magnus Bane, which we're about to see in a second. I do have a question, though. Earlier on in the book, I don't know what page it is, but it's there. Clary is leaving her apartment, and she sees this man with a browner skin and cat-like eyes and crazy hair. Was that him? Right here. Clary is about to reply when the door to Madame Dorothea's swung fully open and a man stepped out. He was tall, with brown skin, gold-green eyes like a cat's, and tangled black hair. He grinned at her blindingly, showing his sharp white teeth. I can't tell if that's just a vampire or if that's actually Magnus. This is all spoilers. Is it Magnus? I need to know. Anyway,
Thank you. I don't know. Why was he there? Questions. I have questions. But now, we are headed to the greatest restaurant. What was the verbatim? The greatest restaurant in New York City. Talkies. I love the Talkies scenes. So let us continue. Clary is such an Isabel hater, or a girl hater in general, but she's such an Isabel hater in this first book because she's like, Isabel's so tall and pretty and skinny, and all the guys love her. Simon loves her. She thinks that Jace probably loves her, and she smells like perfume. But you know what? Clary hates vanilla perfume. She'd never understood why some girls felt the need to smell like dessert. And honestly, kind of agree. Kind of agree. Even though I did used to wear this vanilla perfume from Bath and Body Works before I realized that all that stuff was trash. So I can't really talk, can I? So we had our yummy dinner, yummy breakfast at Takis, where there are a bunch of downworlders, and it's kind of where people hang. You get your fill of whatever food you tend to partake in. And now we know that we're going to go to a party for Magnus Bane because he's been holding one. Well, he's going to hold one in Brooklyn. And Alec is like, Brooklyn? But then you're like, okay, fine, we're going to go. So in the meantime, Clary's back at the Institute, and she's looking at a photo with her mother and Valentine in it. And there's a bunch of other people too. And so Hodge comes in and he's like, oh, do you recognize any of the people in this photo? And she's like, oh, there's you. And then he's like, oh, look over there. And she's like, oh, that's Luke. Because Luke was also part of the gang. He was a shadow hunter as well. And we'll find out more about him later. And I did not realize that the Lightwoods, I didn't realize that the Alec and Isabel's mother and father, their mother was taller than their dad. Because it says in this little description, Hodge indicated an elegant-looking teenage couple, both dark-haired, the girl half a head taller than the boy. Her features were narrow and predatory, almost cruel, and that's Maris. And I don't know why, I just didn't, that fact didn't seep in at any point, and not that it means anything, but I just never had that to picture, because I guess I was not reading well. Y'all, I lost my train of thought, but I picked it up. I found it. I picked it up, and we're going to go back to it, because the thing I was trying to say was that in this class photo, you can see Jace's father, Michael Wayland, and then Clary says, he doesn't look anything like Jace. And then Hodge is like, Jace resembles his mother. We just had the famous Clary gets a makeover scene. And she gets dressed in Isabel's clothing, which is, a shirt for Isabel becomes a dress for Clary. And love the scene and love them bonding a little bit because Clary hasn't been too nice towards Isabel. But you know what? Isabel also hasn't been too nice towards Clary. So, and then throughout the process of this, we learn that Alec, her brother, is gay. So that's some stuff that's been hinted at during the previous chapters where Alec really only likes to talk to Jace and he really doesn't like Clary. And so then we learn that the Clave doesn't really tolerate that very well. And, Clary needs to keep it a secret and very hush-hush. So now we're going to go to the party and see what happens next. Okay, so every warlock has some kind of a mark to show that they are a warlock. And so Magnus Bane's is that he has no belly button, which makes me remember the show Kyle XY. Remember that show? He was an alien and he had no belly button, and that's all I remember of it because I actually didn't watch any of the episodes, but I remember seeing the commercials and I remember thinking, ew, that guy's got no belly button. And that's what happened to Magnus. He ain't got no belly button, but at least he's a warlock. LOL. Yeah, it was him. It was him coming out of Madame Dorothea's. I feel like I've read this book like 12 times, but still, certain details just evade me. What can I say?
And in the same chapter, we have Magnus's, like, his history, his family history, and how he was treated very poorly by his parents because he was born with the devil's mark, and the guy who he thought was his real father wasn't. And so when he sees this, he's like, you are an abomination. His mother hangs herself in the barn, and then he tries to drown him in the creek because he was like, you're a demon. And his real father was a demon, and that's how Magnus Bane came to be. And I forgot all of that. It's kind of insane how their relationship with Magnus Bane grows from this book, because honestly, he kind of hates them when they first show up at his party. And the only person he kind of likes is Alec, because he's like, you're cute. But everyone else, he's like, I wish I could say it was a pleasure, but it wasn't. But they're about to leave this party because Simon is a rat. He drank a blue potion while Izzy was drunkety drunk as a skunk. And now he is just a little ferrety thing, a little ratty thing. And now we have to figure out how to get him all back to normal. So we're going to go somewhere else. Don't got to leave. You don't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here is what Magnus says. Okay, so in the next chapter, the Hotel du Mort, we have Clary and Jace going to a church to get extra weapons to help them because someone has stolen, and by someone I mean a vampire. A vampire stole Simon from her backpack because he was a rat, of course. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna get killed and we need to get him back. So they go back to Magnus, and Magnus says, fine, he's probably here. There you go. And so now they're in a Catholic church trying to find some weapons to help before they go off on their little adventure. And the main thing I have to say here is that I just think it's really crazy that, what's her face? Clary goes, Clary blasphemes, right? And then Jay says, I doubt he'd fit. And she's like, all appalled and whatever. But the fact is, she says, I don't know, it seems wrong to make jokes like that in a church. And to that I would say, girly, you just blasphemed in a church. That's just as bad. And that's what I have to say about this book. I love the book, but I did not realize how much there was of, taking the Lord's name in vain. And that's just for me, like a no-no, but I still like the book, okay? But like there's a lot in this book that I'm like, I didn't realize that was there. So I'm going to bypass it. So we went into the Hotel du Mort. And if you had asked me to put money on whether or not Alec and Isabel went with Clary and Jace, I would have put money on that they did, and that the whole scene happened very differently. They did not. They go on back to the Institute. Clary and Jace go by themselves. And then they meet Raphael, who, in my opinion, is one of the most worthless characters in the series. Sorry if you're a Raphael stan. I just think he's kind of boring. So he originally shows up as this like character who is like, what are you guys doing over here? You guys should be careful. There's some vampires around. Please hold. My tea is done. All right, I got my hibiscus tea ready and waiting for me to drink it. So Raphael, he masquerades as this guy who's like, be careful, there's vampires around. You guys should turn back now, right now. And they're like, no thanks, we're going to keep going. And so he's like, okay, fine, I'll just, I'll escort you. Nothing to sneeze about, And then they go into the hotel, and then Jace throws a knife at him, and he's like, you missed me, because apparently he's a vampire. And Jace figured it out at like the last second, because there's all these other vampires who come down to see what's going on. Why are there these shadow hunters in our place of dwelling, in our safe space? And then they try to strike a deal. They're like, hey, if you give me the rat, aka Simon, we will give you back your leader, Raphael. And so they're making this deal, and then in come the werewolves to save their skins. So that's what's happening now. This scene in the movie, I feel, is what made me think that this happened differently, because the scene in the movie, I'm actually not a fan of the way they did it in the movie, but yeah. So I was wrong. I would be out a lot of money if I had made that bet. It's all going so quick. Okay, so what happened? What happened? Alec had an outburst after they got back from the Hotel d'Amour because they flew on a magic motorcycle that when they flew over the river, the sun came up and then it destroyed it because duh. Like, why would a vampire want to ride a motorcycle in the daytime? So they can't. Then they go back to the Institute. Alec has a little meltdown because Clary said some things and because he was like, Clary, go home. Go home. We don't want you here. And so she told some truths that he didn't want to accept. And then what happened? Oh, then Clary and Simon hung out for a second and he had his whole speech of like, I feel like I've always needed you more than you needed me. And he just likes being in her life. And she's like, oh yeah, we're good buddies. We're good buddies. He falls asleep in her bed, right? So then she goes and no, Jace knocks on her door and he's like, "Are you sleeping?" And she's like, "No." And then he's like, "Well, come on, it's almost your birthday," because it's the day before her birthday, or like at midnight will be her birthday. And so they go to the greenhouse, right? The greenhouse scene. You know what I'm talking about. Even if you've seen the movie, you know what the greenhouse scene is. And that scene in the movie, I hate saying this word, but fire. It was good. So they have a little talk, and he talks about what he got for his birthday, his favorite birthday gift when he was 5, which was to bathe in spaghetti. And then he brings her to what he had wanted to show her, which is basically the blooming flowers at midnight. So they see that, and she's like, "Oh, that's so pretty!" Like, ooh. And then they end up kissing, smooching, and then they're like, "Oh, we got to go because Hodge's Raven is in the building. Like, we need to, skedaddle." So then they go back to her room, or right outside of it, and they have one last smooch. And then Simon opens the door and he's like, "How dare you?" And Jace immediately falls back into, snarky mode. "I don't have any feelings. I don't care about you." And what does he say verbatim? He says, please hold, "In future, Clarissa, it might be wise to mention that you already have a man in your bed to avoid such tedious situations." And then Simon says, "You invited him to bed?" And then Jay says, "Ridiculous, isn't it? We would never have all fit." And that scene, especially in the movie, was just peak comedy. Loved it. Loved it. I mean, this whole page is golden. "Just kissing? How swiftly you dismiss our love." And then maybe you should have thought of that before you kissed me. "I kissed you." And he says, "Don't worry. It wasn't that memorable for me either." Burn. I don't remember what the last thing I said to you guys was. All I know is that I'm almost done and I have a whole nother cup of tea. So it's been a second. We had to ask Simon, because Simon went home once he got, rejected from Clary. Duh. I should stop hitting myself. Clary discovered that she has magical rune powers. So she can take any picture, any object in a picture, put her hand into it, and pull it out. So she figures that the Mortal Cup is actually in that deck of tarot cards that we saw earlier at whose house? Madame Dorothea's. So we got to get there. But for some reason, we need a big truck. So we need Eric, who's the guy that did slam poetry at the very beginning, who is Simon's friend. We need his truck. Simon has a license. Nobody else does. So bada boom, bada bing. We have to eat crow, I guess. No, what's the saying? I don't know. It escapes me. But we have to grovel on our knees to get him to do this. So to get us there. So they all go. Clary, Simon, Jace, Alec, and Isabel. And while they're there, Alec makes a whole big thing about how he's going to kill lots of demons, lots of Forsaken, yeah. Because earlier on, we found out that Alec has never killed a demon, so he needs to take his demon-slaying virginity ASAP. And so, we go into the apartment, And Madame Dorothea is like, she's acting a little bit suspicious. And then you find out that she's been possessed by Abaddon, the demon. And they have a battle with him. Everyone gets hurt. And then Simon comes in, shoots the skylight because demons don't like the sun. And he kills Abaddon, but Clary lets Alec think that he killed Abaddon because Alec got basically mortally wounded because the claws went into him and they have demon poison, so they can't heal him right now. So now they're rushing back to the Institute to get him healed. And we're going into the final like act of this book where we learn all these things. And right now, Jace is saying, this is all my fault. And Claire's like, no, it's fine. It's not your fault. And he's like, yes, it is. When my parabatai, Alec, was, in mortal danger, all I could think about was you. And that, you just don't, if you've never read this book, which I don't know why you'd be watching it up to this point, unless you truly don't care about spoilers and you're never going to read it. If you've never read this book, you don't know how crazy that statement is for what you find out later. You just don't know. So, okay, we've just found out that Hodge is like a double agent and he's been working not for Valentine, but he is Valentine's man, right? So we're like, oh my gosh, he's evil. But then Hodge takes Jace's ring, the one that has the quote unquote Wayland crest on it, which in the movie, all they do is like Valentine takes the ring off of Jace's finger and like turns it upside down to say, it was always an M. And so, but Hodge takes the ring and he twists it 3 times around his finger, and that summons he who must not be named. And to me, I'm like, but what if Jace did that just randomly? Could he have summoned his daddy? You know? I'm questioning things. Oh my goodness, my girl Clarissa, she's being a huge pain. So she is saved when, okay, I have to go back. She does her little rune drawing skill on the invisible force field that's keeping her contained while Valentine and Hodge are having their conversation. Valentine takes Jace away through a portal to somewhere. We don't know where yet. And Hodge is like, you could just go back to your regular life, so bye. And she uses her rune skills to break out of it, and then she goes and pursues Hodge. Hodge then proceeds to fight her and almost kill her, but then Luke, as werewolf Luke, comes and saves the day. She doesn't know it's Luke because she hasn't connected the dots yet. But then she wakes up in Luke's place and she's like, what? You've been lying to me the entire time. And he's like, yeah, but I had good reason to, which he did, by the way. He really did. And then she wants more explanation, and he says that he had been following her, and why he said, because he had said before that he didn't care about Clary or Jocelyn, and that was just to, throw off the pursuers, duh. But Clary still hasn't gotten this through her thick head. And she's like, why would you do this to my mother? She cared about you and she treated you as an equal. And then he's like, look at you, sounding like the Lightwoods. And she's like, Alec and Isabel are, don't talk about them. And he's like, no, I'm talking, Shoddy, I'm talking about his parents, whom I knew very well. Way better than she knows the Lightwoods, quite frankly. And so he's like, fine, I need to tell you the whole story. So enters part 3, The Descent Beckons, where we will learn all the things. We'll learn all the things, and we'll learn so many things. This is where the book gets crazy. Anyway, ooh, okay, so I should have updated before this, but things got away from me. So after all of that, Luke then has his whole, he tells what has brought him to where he is now, which love. I think that Luke Garraway, or Lucian Greymark, is maybe my favorite character. I love him. I would marry him if I could. He was one of the outcasts, and Valentine took pity on them and brought him into his little circle, and then they became a whole gang, right? So then he marries Jocelyn, And Luke always loved Jocelyn, but he was like the Simon to her Clary, you know? And so after that, uh, he gets turned into a werewolf. Valentine says, "You should kill yourself, fool." And, sorry, off yourself. I don't know what the rules of YouTube, whatever. Um, then he says, oh, then they have like the uprising, that whole thing happens. And Jocelyn has already like been known to be pregnant with a baby. She gives birth to a son. And then the uprising happens then after all of that happens, Valentine kills her parents and their son. And then she's like, okay, I've got to get away from here. And Luke is with her. But at that point, she's pregnito with a second child. So she's like, we're not doing anything with the Shadowhunters. We're done with them. So then, years later, Clary's like, wait, so you mean my father is Valentine Morgenstern? No, he is evil. And so she says all of this stuff. And then they go to Roosevelt Island, I believe, to find Valentine. And what they find there is one Jocelyn. She's just chilling on a bed, unconscious. And Clary makes her way to Jace. And Jace, she thought he was going to be all like, wounded, dirty, and straggly like her. But no, he's living in a lap of luxury. Valentine's keeping him in good. Oh yeah, I forgot. Valentine stole him. Valentine stole him. Did I say that? I think I said that. If I didn't, now I did. And then he's like, why would I be in danger, Clary? I'm with my father. Because they're this seems weird to say because I know how this ends. They're siblings. And if you watch the movie, you'll know that they did this in a way so that it's not supposed to make you feel icked out. But basically there's that. An incest plot. Who would have thunk? Also, the reason why this information is such a bomb drop is because when Clary comes into this whole situation with Valentine and Jace, Valentine says, she's acting this way, Jace, because she loves you. So when they get information, it's a little wild. It's a little disgusting. Disgusting! I know I probably look crazy because I just woke up, but I finished. Upside down. I finished. 5 stars. 5 stars for glorious work. So we had a whole finale where Valentine's trying to really get Jace on his side because he's like, I'm your daddy. You're going to follow my lead and we're going to rule the world. But he's trying to make Jace think that he's not that bad, honestly. But obviously he is. So Valentine and Luke have a whole battle. And throughout that, Clary's just trying to get Jace to see that his mama didn't leave him. I'm saying this with air quotes because I really don't want you guys to think that they're incestuous. But that's what Claire wants you. Claire? That's what. Yeah, her last name is Claire. That's what Cassandra wants us to think. So we're going to go with it for the time being. So um, Clary has to sway Jace. And in the end, Jace is like, I'm sorry. Because Valentine, like, hold up, rewind. Valentine is about to kill Luke, and so Clary goes and gets in the way, and she's like, I could see that he was trying to, or she says that he could have stopped his momentum, but I could see that he wasn't going to, because she's like, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't know me, he's gonna kill me, he doesn't care. And Jace he throws a knife at Valentine because he's like, I thought you were gonna kill her, and Valentine's like, and Valentine's like, oh, son, you know I wouldn't have killed your sister. And Clary's like, you liar. And so Valentine then is like, Jace, there's a portal to Alicante, or to Idris, which is where Jace grew up. Um, and Jace is heavily swayed by going back to his home because really, Jace is just a homesick little boy. He just wants to go home. But he ends up saying no, he won't go. And so the portal breaks and it's like some shards of mirror, glass, whatever. And so Jace ends up keeping the glass as souvenir because he can see Idris through the mirror shards, and that's the end. So Valentine has the cup, and Jocelyn is still asleep, comatose. She's in a hospital, and the epilogue was just them going. The epilogue was Clary seeing all the people that she has met throughout this experience, and she's a little bit changed. She can see all of the differences in New York City. She's like, it's so weird how New York has changed, and Jace is like, New York hasn't changed, you have. And Isabel likes her more because she's not a threat anymore. Alec likes her more because she's not a threat anymore because she's his sister. So that's the end of book 1, and then we get ready for book 2. And book 2, City of Ashes. I love that book. I don't know why. It's probably my favorite in the series. I really don't know why. There's nothing that really happens in it. It's a middle book. Because if you didn't know, The Mortal Instruments was meant to be a trilogy, but then Cassandra Clare expanded and did a second half of the trilogy. So, yeah. Onward. Alright, it's time we get started with City of Ashes. Let's see, this one says, Clary Cray just wishes that her life would go back to normal. But what's normal when you're a demon-slaying shadow hunter? Your mother's in a magically induced coma, and you can suddenly see downworlders like werewolves, vampires, and fairies. Claire would love to spend more time with her best friend Simon, but the shadow hunters won't let her go, especially her handsome, infuriating newfound brother, Jace. It's wild if you didn't know, if you don't know all the things. And Clary's only chance to help her mother is to track down rogue shadow hunter Valentine, who is probably insane, certainly evil, and also her father. Ah! When the second of the mortal instruments is stolen, the terrifying Inquisitor suspects Jace. Could Jace really be willing to betray everything he believes in to help their father? Their father is wild. Okay, I forgot that they were also looking for a second mortal instrument because, yeah, like I said, I've forgotten most things about this series. Anyway, also, you like my straight hair? Thanks. Did it myself. You cannot write this stuff. Okay, so now how I was like, ooh, where are the dragons? City of Ashes, Chapter 1. Jace and Alec just got back from a fight, and Jace is like, you're upset. And he's like, and Alec says, I am not. Just because you said dragon demons were extinct. I said mostly extinct. And Alec goes, mostly extinct? It's not extinct enough. So that's the answer to my question. There were dragons in this series, in the second book. So in that first chapter, we have a couple different things happening. One is that Maris is back, the Lightwood's mother and Jace's adopted mother. And she is basically like, Jace, you are associated with Valentine. She's also like, how did you not know that your father was Valentine? And he's like, I had no pictures. He told me he was Michael Wayland, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I don't trust it. I don't believe it. So he's in trouble there. And then we also have Alec and Izzy's younger brother Max is back. He's like, what, 9? Something like that. And we also have Clary and Simon are hanging out together at his house. And he's acting a little bit strange after the events of book 1. He gets a little spooked when they're watching TV and Dracula, the movie, comes on. And he's like, and he goes out of the room to have a little moment. So there's something happening there. And then after that, we get, Izzy calls Simon's house and asks for Clary. And she's like, hey, is Jace there? And she's like, no, why would he be here? And Izzy's like, I don't know, but he's gone. So Jace is on the run. We don't know where he went. Oh, goodness. Ooh, the weather today. But anyway, tell me why I forgot that Maya Roberts was a thing in this book. And she was my least favorite part of this book. I hate Maya. I don't know why, but I hate Maya. Now I remember why. I hate werewolves. I hate any character that is a werewolf. I will never like a werewolf ever since Twilight. I will have an unreasonable hatred towards werewolves. And Maya is one. So, thus started my, shall we say, unreasonable hatred. I don't have a reason for it. I just don't like them. So, yeah. Maya's a werewolf, and she's in Luke's pack, and she stays in the little police station that they hang out in. And now we're in the Hunter's Moon, and that's where Jace has run off to. And he's causing problems, because that's what Jace does.
It's a little crazy seeing Clary and Simon like be in this boyfriendy girlfriend relationship after reading the whole series. It's a little weird. It's like brother and sister, but not really. Honestly, it's been a couple days since I picked this up last time because this is so much more angsty than I remember, and not exactly in a good way. I don't know if this will remain one of my favorite books in the series, but we're gonna keep going. So Jace has mouthed off to the Inquisitor, who has come to check things out because they know that Valentine's son is there and hiding things. So, yeah, but Maris basically picked a fight with Jace to get him out of the Institute so that he wouldn't be there when she got there. But then he goes back and it's like, it's a whole big thing. So they're like, well, the Inquisitor says, you can just, think about what you've done in the Silent City. So he's now kind of in like a Shadowhunter jail. And Clary has just gotten Luke's stele, and she's kind of more along the lines of, ooh, I need to kind of venture down this Shadowhunter avenue. And Simon's like, why? Everything's okay. You're going to stop being a Shadowhunter now. Like, you're not going to have to even try to be a Shadowhunter. She's like, some things are happening right now. There's like, we're on the precipice of something. So that's what's happening with them. And we're about to have a scene with Clary and Simon trying to be like a couple. It's really awkward with them. Oh yeah, I've also neglected to mention that the whole the whole plot of this book is like there are a bunch of different downworlders who are getting their blood sucked out, and the shadow or the magical world is kind of blaming the vampires, but Raphael's like, it's not us, it's not one of my people. So we're also just trying to like investigate the mystery of what's happening to these downworlders, who's taking their blood, what do they want with it. It's a Magnus and Jay slumber party. Teehee.
Good morning, folks, and happy St. Patty's Day. In City of Ashes, the only thing of note, really, well, there's a couple things of note, because we're like, let's say 160-ish pages in. And first of all, I have to note that we had a reference to arguably what was like my obsession when I was a kid in grade school, which was One Life to Live. Because when Jace is with Magnus and Clary and Simon go over with Alec to Magnus's place, and they Simon's like kind of hard launching their relationship, and Jace is like, this is weird, and of course he's jealous, and Magnus is like, okay, I've had enough of this episode of One Life to Waste or something like that. But like he references One Life to Live because this was so of that era. And I love that soap opera. It's great. I was so sad when it got canceled. Anyway, that was that. But now we're already in the Sealy Court. We went into the river with Isabel. I don't know why they brought Simon along, but they did. Simon, Clary, and Jace. they traded Jace for Alex so that he could get around the whole house arrest thing and take his ankle bracelet off. So now they are going to the Queen's court because she summoned them because, yeah, there's somebody stealing blood and they stole blood from the Fae. And this is an iconic scene if you didn't know. So now you know that the scene will blow your mind because it's so, if you're really under the impression that these two are siblings, it will gross you out. So you have to put that aside. You have to do it. You have to. Anyway, yeah. Can't wait to read it. Oh my gosh. The angst is real. Okay, so City of Ashes so far. That whole scene with the Sealy Queen and her being like, she's just honestly really messy. And like they talk about the fairies and how they can't lie, they have to tell the truth, but they do it very trickily. They use a lot of cunning. They have fun with it, you know? So they're able to twist the truth. And so when they're in the fairy court and they're asking for all this information, and then they're like, don't eat or drink anything. And then Clary's like, I won't, Scout's honor. And so she like crushes a berry between her fingers, and then a pixie like bites her finger, and she's like, oh no, and then licks the blood. Ergo, she tastes some of the stuff in the fairy world. And so they're like, sorry, but you can't leave. Sorry, we're going to keep you forever. And so the Sealy Queen's like, hey, you can leave if you do one thing for me. If Clary gets the kiss that she desires, or if Jace gets the kiss he desires. And so then that becomes a thing where it's like, we're watching two people who are ostensibly brother and sister kissing in the fairy court. And Simon gets weirded out by that. So, as he should, if we're all under the impression of this thing. So, he freaks out and leaves after they leave the court. And then they go back to the Institute, Clary and Jace, and they have another scene that looks a little strange because, again, they're still under the impression that they are siblings. And, but, you know, 16-year-old me was like, oh, this is so scandalous. I don't know. I think that I was a weird child. They have a little scene where Jace kind of is like, we could run away together, and Clary, rightfully so, was like, that's disgusting. And he's like, oh, so you think it's so disgusting? And then he basically just shuts off. But then Raphael shows up to the Institute saying that he has Simon, because Simon has been feeling really strange and like having these thoughts that he's turning into a vampire. So he goes to the vampires, and while he's there, they turn him into one. Because what happened when he was a rat was that he bit Raphael. So him having his blood in a human body made him obsess over it. And Raphael even says, the funny thing is, if he had just waited it out, he would have been fine. So Simon then turns into a vampire, and Clary feels all types of ways about that because really it's kind of her fault, but kind of not. He still had a choice. He had choices to not go with and to not drink the blue potion and to not go back to the vampires to actually tell Clary what was happening. But he didn't, so he's a vampire now. And so that really starts Simon's arc in this book series because he's really just a mundane. He lips out, as Phoebe from Friends would say. Or no, Rachel from Friends would say. He lifts out. So now we're back at Luke's house because Clary and Simon have been talking about his vampirism, and Maya has been attacked by something. And so, yeah.
Ooh, is this the evidence of what happens in the next book? Because Valentine is like, did I ever tell you why your mother left me? And she's like, you mean there's only one reason? And basically, it was that Valentine turned her first kid into a monster. And Clary's like, Jace is not a monster. And he's like, I wasn't talking about. And then the trapdoor slams open, so they don't get to finish the conversation. But there is lots of foreshadowing in this book. I will say that. In the epilogue, the Dumbledore reference is a little out of place, but I guess for Cassie Clare, she just had to put it in. But also, I think that if it was a fight between Dumbledore versus Magnus Bane, ooh, who would win? I really don't know. Comment down below. I don't know. I think that, no, Dumbledore could, okay. Magnus Bane, there we go. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, the way in which I vlogged the reading of this book was half-assed. I can't lie. Just know that I finished it, and I will be taking you through a couple of the points in this book. But we gotta get on to the third book, right? This video is over an hour long at this point. We need to keep going. So, where we last left off, we were, Jace was about to, so Luke got attacked by the demon, and then all these other demons come and they get scared off by whatever Clary does, because what did she do? She showed, what was it, a rune of some sort? Yeah, she had a mark on her arm that she had made up, because Clary can make up new runes. So, that happened. They're trying to get Luke all better because he got, of course, attacked. And so overnight, Jace goes to see his father, Valentine. Valentine is hiding out on this boat in the middle of a river. And he also has Agramon, the fear demon, there. So he has to deal with his fear and sees Valentine. And Valentine's like, come over to the dark side, son. Come over here. So Jace has to, pick a side. Don't be a fence sitter. And then after that, we're back with Clary, and Maya's at Luke's house. Everyone's kind of like getting over the fight they had. And I just cannot stand Maya because she's such a downer. I hate all of her dialogue. And it really just makes me mad because it's like one of the only black girls in this series. And I'm like, I don't like her. So it just makes me feel like, But then we have, so Alec comes back to Luke's house and Magnus is there, and they have a whole like little kiki where they're like, why did the demons run away from Clary? She's not exactly, formidable. And she's like, I think it's because of the mark I made. So she says to Luke that she can make new runes, and they're like, prove it. So she makes this fear rune and puts it on Alec. And they're like, let's test it out. And so when the Inquisitor and Maris and Robert, I believe, come to Luke's house, the rune kind of activates itself, and Alec starts telling some truths because he's not afraid of what his parents will think, as in, like, he's seeing somebody and they don't know who he's seeing and they don't know, like, the gender of that person. So they're like, what's happening? And then, of course, it's Magnus. And so we know that Clary can make new runes, and then the Inquisitor takes Jace to, she like locks him up in the Institute because he wasn't supposed to leave Magnus's care, and he also was not supposed to meet up with Valentine. That was a no-no. And it feels like the Inquisitor is taking a lot of stuff out on Jace, and you don't find this out till later, but the Inquisitor had a son named Stephen Herondale. And she is really upset that Jace's dad was involved in the killing of Stephen. So she has some beef with him. So she takes it out on Jace because Valentine is Jace's dad, etc. And when Jace has been locked up in the Institute, Alec comes by and he's like, you know what? I think that you could get out of this cage, because she like builds a cage with 4 walls and not a 5th one up top. So he's like, why don't you just jump out? Because he's been able to do feats of this nature forever. And they're like, there's no one stronger or more skilled or agile. No one can jump higher than you. You're like an NBA player. And so he's like, fine, I'll try it. And he's able to jump basically 30 feet high into the air because it turns out something's happened with him as well. So this is all foreshadowed by the Seelie Queen saying that Valentine had experiments and that Clary and Jace were some of them. And, they share the same blood, which is like, if you then read the next book, you're like, like, you just can tell like all the ways that the fairies twist the words to make it to make it seem one way when it's really the other. Anyway, so between all that happening, I'm having to sum up everything because I didn't do any updates. Between all of that, Valentine has still been looking for a werewolf to get the blood of and a night child, a vampire. So he takes Maya and Simon because it's personal, right? So he takes them onto the boat and he slits the throat of Simon. So Simon's, we think he's dead, right? And so when Clary and Magnus end up taking, Magnus puts a spell on Luke's truck and enabled it to roll across the water. And they all go and try to save these people to get to Valentine because Valentine has the cup and Melartek, which is the sword, the soul sword, which he's trying to turn the soul sword into a dark object. So that's his aim right there. And so much happens. Wait, okay, so then Jace finds Valentine, they have a little talk. Then he finds Simon and sees that he's like, he looks dead, but he's like, oh wait, no, he's not dead, but he's lost a lot of blood. And he's like, okay, he needs some blood. So Jace is the blood bank for Simon and almost drains him of blood, but he stops himself. He has self-control. And so then they meet up with Clary. Clary ends up, what's his face? Valentine is threatening her with the sword, and then Jace shows up and he's like, sorry, I'm having to disappoint you, Daddy, but you know, I'm gonna have to disobey you again. And he throws, I think Jocelyn's, yeah, it's Clary's stele, but Jocelyn's stele to Clary. And he's like, you know what to do with it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And she does her opening rune, which takes the ship and it basically opens everything. It opens the nuts from the bolts and the rivets and takes everything apart. And then they end up in the water. The Sealy Queen uses the sea ifrits or the water sprites to help them out so they don't drown. And while we're on this boat, they get back to Luke's truck, which is, you know, rolling on water. They get back there and Clary is like, oh my gosh, everybody's cool, everybody's okay. But then they see that the sun is rising and she's like, Simon's still a vampire. Oh no. So she's convinced he's gonna die. And then as she's having her big freak out about the sun rising, the sun rises and he's fine. Simon does not turn to ash and they're like, okay, cool. All right, I'll take it. And so that happens. That's the end for them. Although in the epilogue, we have a section where Simon and Clary have a talk, and luckily he's able to kind of go back to a normal life, so his mother doesn't really get too suspicious. But he ends up kind of breaking up with Clary. He's like, you know, I think that I want to be with somebody who wants to be with me. No offense. He's like, if you ever do feel like you love me, give me a call. But until then, I'm gonna go hang out with Maya and some other people. Who else? So then, Jace ends up, Maris, who is, of course, Alec and Isabel's mother. She ends up saying sorry. She was just scared that Valentine was going to, that Jace was going to break her heart like Valentine did, because they really did love Valentine back in the day. He just turned out to be, you know, kind of extreme. And which is something I want. I would love for Cassandra Clare to write another book series, but have it be about like the Valentine circle days. That would be lit. Be lit. So, then we have, after Clary and Simon have a little breakup, but they're still friends, besties for the resties. Then we have Clary and Luke having a little conversation, and she's like, you love my mom. And that is something I'm also obsessed with. I'm obsessed with Luke and Jocelyn. I want more of that, especially because, ow, I just hurt myself. Especially because now I'm older and I'm not obsessed with the teen romances because I'm not a teen, so it doesn't interest me anymore. I'm obsessed with adult romances now. So I love Luke and Jocelyn, the idea of them, how they were and how they end up being, and how he's carried this torch for her forever. I love it. I love unrequited love. I'm a fan. So Clary's like, don't give up on her. Like, you just need to, because at one point when she was pregnant with Clary and was on the run from Valentine, he offered to marry her, and she thought it was like a pity marriage proposal, but he was like, no, honey, I want to be your husband. I want to be your baby's daddy. I want all of it, the whole kit and caboodle. And she's like, no. And it's mostly because he didn't say, hey, I love you. Will you marry me? It was more like, let me marry you. Because, I guess women don't like that kind of a thing. The obligation, probably not the hottest thing. So we left them on the, what's going to happen with that romance situation. And then at the very end, we have Clary goes to Jace, because all of this is, turning some gears in her brain. She's like, maybe I need to go profess my love to Jace, my quote unquote brother. And so she goes back to Jace, and she's like, I feel like she doesn't actually get to say anything. He ends up doing most of the talking, and he's like, you were right. We shouldn't do this because it would make everybody else creeped out. We can't just go on the run and be, kissing brother and sister incestuousness. And she's like, okay. So they put a halt to that. And then at the very end, she goes back to the hospital to see her mother, who's still in her coma, and sees this silver-haired woman that she's been seeing off and on in random places with the shadow hunters. And her name is Madeline, and she's come to Clary to say that she knew Jocelyn when they were kids in Idris, and that she knows what happened to her. And it wasn't Valentine that put her into a coma. It was Jocelyn herself. She did this to make sure that she couldn't give him any information. And she's like, I know how to get your mom out of it. And that's the end. That is the end of the epilogue. This book, for nostalgic purposes, gets 5 stars. But if I was to rate it, actually rate it again, I give it a 3, because I don't know, I didn't love the characters the same way I did before. They were a little annoying, a little too angsty. Mostly it was Maya that I did not enjoy. I forgot how much I hated her. And I mean, that's partly because she's a werewolf, partly because of her character being a downer Debbie, and thinking she knows more than Clary for a lot of the time. I just wasn't a fan. And I'm not a fan ever for Maya, so that's that. And then after we have those pivotal scenes where they're just kind of oh my gosh, are they really kissing in this scene? Are they really having this tension, the sexual tension when they think they're brother and sister? Other than that, this is a pretty boring book. So I am looking forward to the third one, reading it, because first of all, I want to get this video out soon, because my Final Cut trial is ending soon, so that has to happen. But yeah, nostalgia, 5 stars for sure. So on to the next one. Sure. Simon has his DS balanced on his blue jean knees, and he's playing Mario Kart. That takes me back. I was obsessed. I miss my pink DS Lite. Oh, those were the days.
I'm so sorry for being what I believe is 10% uglier with my curly hair. We're reading City of Glass, and I always say this when I start a new Mortal Instruments book. I'm like, this one's my favorite. And I don't know if that's true. Well, it hasn't been true, but I think it's true with this one, because this is the original ending to the trilogy, and it really reads like one, and I like it. Do I need any other words? Probably. So this one is like when you're watching a TV show and they have an episode where they take a field trip somewhere else. That's this book, because we start off chapter 1 with Clary and Simon, and Simon's playing on his DS, And that is so OOs of him. I remember playing on my DS, playing Mario Kart, and it was life. And he's talking with Clary. Clary's packing to go to Idris because Madeline in the last book at the end has said that she needs to go there and do something. Can't really remember what she's doing there, honestly. What is she doing there? Oh, to get something to save her mother's life. Duh. And we know that Jace doesn't want her to go. And he's being very protective. And he's like, if she goes, then they're gonna make her fight and be a shadow hunter, and he doesn't want that. So he's like, just keep her out of the Clave's knowledge because she just did that thing with like the runes and being able to like make really strong ones. And so we have Clary and Simon, and then we have Simon going to the Institute to meet Jace, and Jace has concocted this whole plan to just not tell her they're leaving. And Simon's like, that's kind of wrong, man. That's kind of wrong. So during all of that, they have a Forsaken attack, and things end up going, bottom side up. So that's the start of this book. And yeah, this book has a lot of action right out of the gate. So I really like that aspect of it. And we shall see. Oh, also, that's another reason. A lot of characters get introduced in this novel. Not a lot, just one main character that makes you go, ooh. So, yeah, this one's just really dramatic. So, let us continue our read.
The allergies are trying to take me down, y'all. But what has happened in City of Glass? We've had Clary decide that she is going to get to Alicante, or Idris, any way she can. So when she's found out that everybody's left without her, she's like, wah, and I'm gonna make a portal. Because Magnus is like, oh, I can get a message to Ragnar Fell, because he's the warlock we're trying to get the potion to save her mother. And she's like, that's not gonna work for me. So she creates her own portal and is like, solved it. And then she goes into the portal. Luke comes with because he's like, she doesn't know what she's doing, clearly. Because when she goes in, she bounces off of the wards of Alicante and ends up swimming in Lake Lynn, which would not be a problem if she had a stele, because the water for Lake Lynn is poisonous to shadow hunters. So it causes hallucinogenic stuff. And it's fine for Luke because he's a downworlder, but for her, it's just not, it's a no bueno situation. So she is recovering with Amatis. I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but it's Luke's sister, who used to be married to Stephen Herondale. So there's a connection there. And she was made to divorce, or annul. She was made to annul her marriage to Stephen by Valentine, because once Luke became a werewolf, he said, I can't have anybody in my circle married to somebody who's related to a downworlder. So she had to get divorced, and then Stephen married Celine. And while all this is happening, Simon has been brought through the portal that Magnus made by Jace. And so he sees Aline, who is Aline Penhallow. She is getting kind of flirty with Jace. And so there's that happening right now. That's important for later. And you also meet her cousin, Sebastian Verlac. He's very important to the story, if you didn't know. And yeah, there's lots of little subtle, they're not really subtle hints that Cassandra Clare is giving us, but she's giving us hints about who these people are, what they mean to the story. And the other thing to note is that Simon is feeling kind of like, I kind of like Isabel. Like, he's feeling that again, which he felt in book 1, but not in any substantial way. And so, yeah, so plot-wise, Alec was sent to take Simon to see the Inquisitor, the new one. And his name is something Aldertree. That's what his name was. And Aldertree is giving off strange vibes. And he's like, you can leave him with me. He's in good hands. And Simon is, in fact, not in good hands. And so Alec's like, okay, bye, Simon, because he was going to take him back to New York. He does not take him back to New York. So after that, we have Simon in a jail because, what's his face? Aldertree is trying to figure out why he can withstand the daylight. He calls him Daylighter. And so Simon is just in prison right now. And so our people are kind of far flung, but, you know, they're going to catch up to each other because Clary has put on some Shadowhunter gear that Amatus has. And she's like, I'm going to go find me my brother. And that's where we are.
Update time. The first update being, I got a sinus infection, so you're going to have to deal with this current voice thing. City of Glass update is, where are we in this story? Ooh, we just had a go home Roger moment. If you guys watch Sister Sister, you know what that means. Okay, so I just finished reading a little bit more of the chapter Bad Blood. And basically, we have two things happening. One, Simon is being coerced into throwing the Lightwoods under the bus by the Inquisitor. But he doesn't want to do that. But they're withholding blood. So if he doesn't get with the program soon, there will be hell to pay. And the other thing is that Clary just now skedaddled her way to the Penhallows house. And she got there, and Isabel's like, you're not supposed to be here. Why are you here? Because Jace told everybody that Clary didn't want to go. And they're like, if you didn't get here one way, how did you get here another way? There's no more portals to be had. Little do they know. So then Clary bulldozes her way up to like the attic where she finds Aline and Jace in flagrante. I hope I used that word right. And she's like, oh no. But you know, they're siblings, so she's like, it's not supposed to matter. But she's like, she's hurt. You can tell. And that's where we have the whole scene where Jace is like, you're not a shadow hunter. You're not meant to be here. We don't like you. Because he's trying to get her to go home because he wants to keep her safe. And so right after that, Clary goes out and is like walking around. And then Sebastian comes up, and I need to read you this verbatim. This is how Clary is describing Sebastian. Sebastian, the dark-haired boy from the Penhallows living room, stood in front of her, panting a little as if he'd been chased down the street at a run. She felt a burst of the same feeling she'd had earlier, when she'd first seen him. Recognition, mixed with something she couldn't identify. It wasn't like or dislike. It was a sort of pull, as if something drew her toward this boy she didn't know. Maybe it was just the way he looked. He was beautiful as Jace. Though where Jace was all gold, this boy was pallor and shadows. Although now that she looked at him more closely, she could see that his resemblance to her imaginary prince was not as exact as she'd thought. Even their coloring was different. It was just something in the shape of his face, the way he held himself, the dark secretiveness of his eyes. And if you read this book, you know what all that means, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, I'm at that section, okay, if you've read City of Glass, you know there is a certain point of the book where you're like, and you read it, and if you've already read it, you read it back again, and you're like, ew. It's just a little nasty. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna prop you on my knee real quick because my arm's getting tired. I have a show tonight. So I'm going crazy. That's why there's no video up this week, because I'm actually losing my mind. But in the interim, what's happened so far? Okay, so we've gotten to the point where I'm really not that far in, you guys. I'm taking my time. April might be the month where I read one singular book. And you know what? That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm definitely in chapter 8, which is One of the Living, which is like almost 200 pages in. So what's happened so far is I forgot to mention that Simon is also like his cell, well, not his cellmate, but the person in the cell next to him, his name is Samuel, and It seems like Samuel knows a lot about Simon and the Lightwoods and Jace and Clary. So Simon's like, suspicious. And, oh, okay, so the other thing that happened was when Sebastian goes and follows Clary, he walks her home, so chivalrous. And after that, he shows up later to her window, throwing rocks, and is like, hey, come on, let's go find Ragnar Fell. So they go and try to find him, but who do they find? Not Ragnar Fell, although Sebastian does not know that. He just sees a warlock, and Magnus freezes him. It's Magnus, by the way. Magnus freezes him and has a little chat with Clary and is basically saying that he knows where she can find the spell book, and it's hidden in this, Jocelyn hid it in the Morgenstern Manor, where, what is it? In a book called, it's a cookbook, something recipes for housewives, like something like that, something cheeky. And Clary is like, okay, that's the new plan. We're gonna go find that book. And then, as Sebastian is walking Clary home, or not walking, but like they're riding a horse home, they have a little chat, and then Sebastian like leans in for a kiss and then starts to kiss her, and she's like, it felt wrong. That's the only way I can explain it. And she's just like, no, this is not it. And yeah, so if you've read the book, you know why this is happening. And he's like, I think we're meant for each other. And she's like, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. So yeah, that's where we are right now. And I do know, I remember there is a specific scene that I'm looking forward to later on. And if you know, okay, this all is under the umbrella of, if you have read the book series, you're okay with X, So I like a certain scene because I've read the book series and I'm okay with it, okay? Okay. Y'all, I've basically come to terms with the fact that I'm going to look worse before I look better in this video. Did a first weekend of shows, almost broke a rib. My wrist is hanging on by a thread, and yeah. But the shows were good, so we have one more weekend, so that means we're still reading City of Glass. And we got to that scene. So if you didn't know, Jace goes over to to Amatis's house. Amatis? I don't know how to say her name. He goes over to her house and is like, hey, I'll take you to, I misspoke earlier, it's the Wayland Manor. But Clary makes a portal because why not? If you want to get somewhere, make a portal, destroy your destroy your quasi-uncle's sister's house. Makes sense. So they go to the manor, and they find the spellbook. But they also find that there's an angel in the basement. And Valentine has been keeping this angel hostage. And the angel is like so close to death, but it's like, please release me. I want the sweet release. And the angel gives them visions. And they're basically what the angel has seen. So it is telling them that, one, Valentine has been doing experiments on a medley of things. One of them being Jace, his son. The angel tells them that he has been, he fed demon blood to Clary's mother when she was pregnito. And then demon blood with the first pregnancy, and then angel blood with the second. So Jace is like, oh my gosh, I'm a demon and you're an angel. What? And also, so that's the big scandal, right? Jace is part
demon, and that's why he can do the things he can. That's why Clary can do the things that she can. And we also have Jace. He names his Seraph Blade Ethereal because that is the name of the angel that has been trapped in the basement for all those years, and gives the angel the blade. The angel kills itself, and in the process, it blows up the entire house. And so they're like tumbling on the hillside. And then you have what is probably, if you still believe what you believe, the most disgusting kissing scene because of what is happening with these two people. And they fully believe they are siblings. They do. And that's why this book is kind of disgusting now. I didn't think it was before because I was just a teenager who was like, ooh, kissing scenes. It's disgusting if you're under the impression everyone else thinks that they are siblings, because everyone else is like, the ones that know they had the hots for each other before they knew, like the Lightwoods, they knew this. They're like, we can understand where you would be, you'd have these feelings. And it's like, you shouldn't even, no. So they have this whole big makeout scene, and the only reason why Clary stops it is because she doesn't like that she feels like Jace is punishing himself, and that he knows that he's a demon and he's just evil. That's why he wants her, because she's like, because I want you and I have angel blood. So that's the only reason, right? So then they end up leaving, and they're like, oh, we gotta walk because you lost my stele. So they're walking towards the gates of Idris, and they see that it's on fire. So now we're in chapter 10, Fire and Sword, and we're back with the Lightwoods, and yeah. So this is just all so messy. But I am planning on finishing this week, so mark my words, mark them.
Currently in the process of editing this behemoth of a video, so I've forgotten to update, but what happened, I don't remember. Oh my gosh. So last we checked, Jace and Clary were speeding back to Alicante to see what's happening, why Idris is on fire. And they find out why, and it's because somebody has destroyed the wards that keep the demons at bay. And meanwhile, we're with Isabel, Alec, Sebastian, and Aline, and Max as well. They're in the Penhallows house. And Max has said that he can't sleep because he saw somebody climbing the towers. And Isabel's like, Max, no one's up there. No one's doing that. And then all hell breaks loose. There's a demon that tries to get at Isabel. Everybody's kind of fighting for themselves. And meanwhile, all of the fighting, like, adult shadow hunters are at a meeting right now. And they left every other person who is either too old, too sick, or just, or not old enough to fight, are back in the town. So they are defenseless. And throughout the process of this, Isabel is taken like this way and that. Sebastian's acting kind of funky. And then we have a scene where we just find that Sebastian has, he's showing who he really is, which is not a very nice man. He then kills Max, Isabel and Alec's little brother, and he's off to go find Clary and just do a bunch of evil things. And then we see Jace and Alec and Clary, yes. And they've gone to go find Simon because he's still in jail. And they find him, they get him out, and then they find that Samuel is actually Hodge. Hodge's real name was Samuel. And then they're obviously like still kind of butthurt about how he betrayed them, duh. But then Sebastian kills him. So everybody's dying left and right. But now everybody knows that Sebastian's not a good man. So I feel like there's so much that happens. I have not been updating. Ooh, okay, wait. Then we go to the town hall, and the Inquisitor is killed by Valentine's projection, his hologram, which they didn't think that the hologram could do anything. And he's issued them an ultimatum, and involves downworlders and yada, yada, yada. And everyone else is like, yo, we can't do that. We can't give ourselves up. And we need to actually combine forces with the Downworlders. But nobody else wants to do this. Of course, Luke wants to. So he's kind of championing that. And then we get a very... I don't know why this made me so giddy back in the day. I know why it made me giddy back in the day. Because I never thought they were siblings. That's why. But Clary and Jace have this scene after Max's funeral where he comes back to her room and he's like, can we just have one night where we just sleep in the same bed? Like, no nookie nookie, no hanky panky, just sleep. He just wants to be with her. And she says yes, and it was quite a touching scene, especially for little Ashley Hannah, who is literally just like 16 or 17 years old, and she likes love, okay? She loves love. She still loves love. She's talking about herself in the third person, but she still loves love. And and now what's just happened is Jocelyn is back. We talked with Isabel. Oh, yeah, and then Simon and Isabel had this thing going on, which, like, has no bearing upon the story to me whatsoever. So, yeah, Jocelyn is back, and Clary is less than happy, which, it's like, girly, pick something to be mad at and stick with it. You said you wanted her back, now she's back. Throw a parade. And now Jace has gone, and he's taken, when Clary got some of a thread from Sebastian on her. And so Jace saw this, and he's using that thread to track him. So he's like, I need to find Sebastian. If I find Sebastian, I'll find Valentine. And, we also found out that that's not the real Sebastian. Sebastian Verlac is more than likely dead, and he was taken over by this imposter. Is that roundabout enough? I think so. Have I confused you? I've confused me, and I've read this book series multiple times.
After what feels like a millennia of rereading this trilogy, I finally finished, and I didn't do very many updates towards the end because we gotta get this video out there. It's taken me so long to do this video. Anyway, recap time. So, I did take notes because you gotta. A lot went down in that last third. So, where we left off, Jace was on the run looking for Sebastian. And, Jocelyn came back. Clary got mad at Jocelyn, which, okay, I understand it because she was lied to all of her life, but, like, Clary knows why. She was on the run from her husband, Valentine, who was, by all rights, an evil villain, murderous, working with the demons because he hates Downworlders, which seems like it's not a good plan, and it won't be. So all that happens, and then Simon and Clary have a little talk, and they talk about random stuff, honestly. Like, basically about Simon, joining this world and how it was his choice, yada, 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 etc. But then, they have because Valentine had this proposal that you have to give yourselves up to me by midnight or else I send the demons upon you. And Clary wants the Downworlders to work together. So she creates this rune that is called Alliance, and it binds one Shadow Hunter to one Downworlder, and they share each other's powers. Because honestly, that's what Valentine always wanted. He was just jealous, and he wanted the powers too. He's like, why do we have to draw runes on ourselves that are temporary? Whereas, a werewolf has speed the entire time, that, fairies have this, that, and the other. So he was just jealous. And so she makes these things, this rune, and the Clave then agrees to do what she's asked. Oh, but before that, she shows him that she has rune making abilities, and she makes a rune where it shows you the person you love most, which I thought was very interesting. And it's a good scene where you see all these people seeing their loved ones, and like Amethyst sees Stephen Herondale because she still loves him. After all that, Jocelyn and Clary have it out. They talk, and then Jocelyn tells Clary all the stuff that she heard from Valentine while she was comatose, because she could hear everything. And she's like, yeah, your father fed me. He did experiments on me when I was pregnant the first time and the second time. The first time he fed me demon blood, and it made me depressed. It made her sick, and then she gives birth, and the baby has these black eyes and gives off demonic energy. And she's like, I just felt like a terrible mother, because no one else can see it. But then the second time she's pregnant, Valentine does not know. He just knows that she's not doing well, because at this point, Luke, is that what happened? Unsure. But he starts giving her angel blood because he's got ethereal locked up in the basement, and he doesn't know that she's pregnant, and so he did not mean to give Clary the powers that she has. That was just a happy accident. So in essence, he created his downfall, which I think is poetic justice. But Jocelyn tells Clary that while this is happening, he was also giving Celine, who was Stephen's new wife, this angel blood because he actually wanted to experiment on a baby, but he didn't know that he didn't know he was doing it with Jocelyn, but he did know with Celine. And once Stephen dies, Celine slits her wrists, and he ends up taking the baby and hiding the baby away and raising why am I putting up 3 fingers? 2 babies. And I say all this to say, Jocelyn tells Clary that Jace is not her brother. Sebastian is, which means Clary has still kissed her brother. No matter how you slice it, she kissed her brother. But at least the one time she kissed Sebastian, it felt wrong. At least. But you know what? Sebastian knew the entire time. And that's where the incest plotline comes in, my friends. That's the real truth. But anyway, and Jocelyn's like, I'm sorry, Jace isn't your brother. She's like, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. And then while all this is happening, Raphael, this is like a really side plot that I can't bring myself to care about. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But Raphael doesn't want to join the efforts to join the Shadowhunters, but he says he will if they give him Simon, because Raphael basically wants to get rid of Simon because he thinks his Daylighter abilities are an abomination. Never mind that vampires are also an abomination. But he's like, if you give him to me, then I'll join. And Simon just wants to help the cause, and he's like, if they don't join, then we'll always be your enemy, and I'm gonna be a vampire forever, so I just kind of need to do this. So then Clary says, fine, but I need to protect you. So she gives Simon the Mark of Cain, which is a biblical thing where it's like Cain, whosoever slays Cain has like 7-fold returned upon him or something like that. You'd think I know, but I'm Catholic. We don't know the Bible. I'm just kidding. So that happens, and so whenever anyone tries to hurt Simon, they die, basically. So there's that. Again, that was a non-thing for me. Like, I just could not care back then, and I still can't care. Oh, well, while all this is happening, Jace has found Sebastian, and he's been looking on. He still, of course, doesn't know that he's not Valentine's son. So he sees Valentine with Sebastian. He's like, what's this man doing? Or what's this boy doing with my daddy? Like, why are they so close? And then Valentine leaves, and he says that Sebastian should not, under any circumstances, release the demons until midnight because, he might be evil, but he's a man of his word. And Sebastian and Jace have it out. They have a little, battle of the wills. And when it seems like Jace is going to be defeated, Izzy comes out of nowhere and saves the day. And basically just because, you know, it's payback for what Sebastian did to Max. Because, don't forget, he killed a little 9-year-old boy.
Y'all, I forgot to mention that Izzy and Jace kill Simon. Not Simon. Oh my gosh, that would be rough. Izzy kills Sebastian, and they don't find the body. And if you have ever watched a soap opera, never get comfy until you find the body. That is all.
So then Jace is off again to find Valentine. I keep forgetting this. The whole plot of this book, or the whole plot of Valentine's quest, is that he wants to, again, find all of the mortal instruments, aka the name of the series, and he wants to, so it's the sword, the soul sword, the cup, and the mirror. And the mirror, it turns out, is Lake Lynn. Not an actual mirror, but just like a lake. And so he wants to use all of these objects to summon Raziel, who is like the main angel. And so he also needs some blood. So when Jace gets there to Valentine, and Claire gets there as well, and then puts, what's his face? Valentine puts a silencing rune on her and incapacitates her. And what's his face? Valentine is like, I need to sacrifice somebody. So he sacrifices Jace and uses his blood or uses his sacrifice for the summoning. And so thus kills Jace. So Jace, dead. And of course Claire is distraught, and so she uses something, she just disturbs the summoning process, the spell, and claims it with many, many Teku Farsi something or other. And when Valentine raises Raziel, Raziel's like, who dares disturb me from my slumber? And Valentine's like, I did it for the good of Shadowhunters. And Raziel's like, no, you didn't. So he shoots a fiery arrow down onto him. Plus he's like, also, you didn't summon me. She did, over there. That's hers now. So, what's his face? So Raziel gives Clary, because she is now the spellcaster. He asks her what is her one wish, and he's like, be careful though, because I'm not a genie, so be careful. And she's like, I could wish for world peace or the end to war, but I'm gonna wish for Jace to be alive again. So she does, and he comes back to life, because that won't end poorly. So that's the end. The end. Then we have an epilogue where we're just like tying up loose ends. Jace has a scene with Amethyst because his parents are Stephen Herondale and Celine, and so he'll never know them, of course, but Amethyst was married to Stephen, so she at least knows him very well. And Simon's hot as a vampire. He's they're setting up a love triangle of sorts with Maya and Isabel, because that makes sense. And then Clary is just like freaking out about like, what if Jace doesn't want me because it's no longer forbidden? Which is like, okay. But I get it, because they're teenagers. And that's the other thing. It's growth in a person where you're like, or it's growth in me to realize that teenagers are children, and I just, anytime there's a romance with a teen, I'm like, you're a child, you're a baby, what do you know? So yeah. But the thing I do like is that Luke and Jocelyn do end up getting together in the epilogue, because Luke has gotten an opportunity to stay in Idris, to be on the clave, on the council as like a werewolf representative. And Amethyst is like, you better, let him go because you don't want him. And then she's like, no, but I do want him. And she's like, ha, I knew you did. And yeah, she's like, go get your mans. And so she does. And I think that's great. And it's expanded upon in the next trilogy. So love that for them. And Oh, Magnus and Alec get together. I forgot to mention all that stuff, but like it's not that important to the story right now. Their arc and plot happens more in the second half of the trilogy for sure. But yeah, the fairy queen, the Seelie queen, offers Clary a favor if she puts Meliorn from book 2 on the council with a seat, and she's like, "Don't need it, thanks, but no thanks." And that's the end. Then we watch the fireworks. Yay! So yeah, that was my reread of part 1 of this series. I think that this is one of Cassandra Clare's best finales to, or endings to a series, a trilogy. I think she gets, like, City of Heavenly Fire is honestly not a good ending. I did not like it. I hated it. I put it off so much when I was reading it back in the day. And I think that that's the case with all of her other endings, except for Clockwork Princess. That one is A1 steak sauce. And then I also think that I don't think that this is my favorite series of hers anymore. I think that was like a very teenage experience for me, and it was the perfect storm of like the time and place I was in, and I think I do like the Infernal Devices a little bit more, but I still enjoyed rereading this, and I was able to reread it. I didn't think, ugh, this is just like not it for me anymore. So yeah, I had a good time. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed this an hour and a half plus video. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you would like to watch more of my videos, please subscribe so that you get them, and like the video. And I do indeed think that the next book I will be reading will be A Storm of Swords. So if you were like, where is this video? It's gonna happen next, maybe, okay? Okay, just let me heal my rib that I almost broke on Sunday. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Peace and blessings. Bye, y'all.